Penn State has played UCLA only 6 times on the gridiron, and that was 6 decades ago in the 1960s. The first 3 games in the 6-game series were played when Rip Engel was still the coach of the Nittany Lions. The last 3 were played after Joe Paterno had succeeded his mentor in 1966. Each of them beat the Bruins once and lost to them twice. So UCLA will march into Beaver Stadium Saturday with a 4-2 record against Penn State in matches that were played from 55 to 61 years ago. And the contests were reported by the founding father of the football letter, Ridge Riley. So we had to delve into the archives to pull out Ridge's letters to his loyal alumni readers. Penn State was successful in the first meeting with UCLA in 1963, as Ron Coates kicked a 32-yard field goal in the fourth quarter to secure a 17-14 victory before 36,327 fans in Beaver Stadium. And that was in the new stadium's 3rd year, after the 30,000-seat all-steel stadium moved from Central Campus by Rec Hall and the Nittany Lions statue to its current location. Quarterback Pete Lisk, who led the Lions to a 17-7 win over Oregon in the 1963 season opener just 1 week earlier, continued his accurate passing to compile 30 completions and 39 attempts for 290 yards and 3 touchdowns in those first 2 games of the season. And his 19 completions against UCLA set a new single-game Penn State record in the Lions' 77th year of playing football. State's balanced swing T offense allowed Lisk to throw bombs to little guys lining up way out wide, like Junior Powell and Donnie Calm, while tailback Gary Klingensmith and fullback Tom Urbanek ran for 33 yards, mostly straight ahead, against the Bruins as the Lions controlled the ball for 79 plays, 20 more than UCLA's 59, and State compiled 191 yards of offense to the visitors' 151. Penn State was forced to punt only once, but 2 costly fumbles and some pesky penalties blunted Penn State's drives, according to our scribe, Ridge Riley. Ridge said, "All of the first half scoring took place in the last 4 minutes of the second period," Riley wrote. Bud Yost stopped UCLA's farthest advance when he blocked Larry Zeno's field goal attempt from the 19-yard line. In those days, college players played both ways, on offense and defense. Players who started on the field in the first quarter and came off the field could not return until the second quarter. Those who started the third quarter and were later replaced could not come back until the fourth quarter. Most teams had another group of two-way players called, quote, the readies, end quote, who subbed in each quarter. There was much less specialization on special teams also, as the starting unit and the, quote, readies had multiple duties to perform. UCLA's quarterback Larry Zeno, for example, also did the place kicking, running straight ahead and booting the ball with his toes, unlike today's specialists who all approach the ball at an angle and strike the football with the instep of their foot with a soccer-style kick. The Penn State player who blocked the field goal attempt by UCLA's quarterback was Bud Yost, a Nittany Lion running back. Junior Powell, one of the smallest Penn State players, set up the game's first score by returning a Bruin punt 22 yards before Lisk moved his team 44 yards in 14 plays, capped by Klingensmith's touchdown, with just 2 minutes left in the first half. This aroused the slumbering Bruins as Zeno used rollouts plus trick plays until end Mel Profit made a spectacular catch in the end zone to tie the score. But with only 1 minute 30 seconds left in the half, Lisk passed 13 yards to Klingon Smith, then connected with Powell on a pass toward the sideline, where fans shouted for Junior to step out of bounds and stop the clock. But the little scatback shook off the first tackler, made the second would-be tackler miss, swept neatly by the third, and dashed all the way to the end zone for Penn State's 14-7 halftime lead. UCLA knotted the score late in the third quarter after recovering a Penn State fumble and driving 74 yards in the opposite direction to tie the score at 14-0. But in the waning minutes of the fourth quarter, Lisk drove the Lions to the 17-14 win on Coates' 22-yard field goal. UCLA then proceeded to win the next 4 contests with Penn State until 1968, when the Bruins ran into Coach Joe Paterno's first of 2 undefeated back-to-back 11-0 teams. In a game played in the Los Angeles Coliseum, the heralded speedy Bruins met Penn State players like Charlie Pittman, Ted Kwolek, Chuck Burkhart, Denny Onkotz, Mike Reed, Steve Smear, Jim Cates, and college and NFL Hall of Famer Jack Ham, who of course joined Steve Jones in the broadcasting Penn State games for the past 24 years. Controversial UCLA coach Jimmy Prothero had speedy runners and receivers, plus a never-miss kicking and punting expert from Canada, Zenon Andrushinen, who told a Los Angeles columnist he had a dream the night before the game that he had a golden shoe, which is an unfailing kicking and punting charm. He told his reporters, according to Riley's football letter. After a scoreless first quarter, Penn State scored 7 minutes into the second period after Andrushinen dropped back to punt from the 35-yard line. Penn State's whole front line put on the rush with Cates and Ham leading the way. UCLA quarterback Jim Nader, who was the kicker's protection man, made a stab at Cates, then decided to go for Ham instead, but the latter slipped the block and came into Zenon, arms upraised. The ball hit Ham's forearm, bounced back into the kicker's chest and onto the ground in front of Cates. Jim picked it up. Most of the West Coast writers described his 36-yard run to the goal as lumbering, which is apparently the only way they thought a defensive back can run for a touchdown. Chasing Cates was Greg Jones, one of the fastest Bruin runners, who must have also lumbered because he didn't catch up. Racing along with Jones was none other than Mike Reed. TD by one of the, quote, Rovers unit brought the game alive. UCLA was delayed by Neil Smith's interception, but later drove 43 yards in 13 plays for a touchdown. And then Andrushinen's extra point went wide to the surprise of everyone, and Penn State took a 7-6 halftime lead into the locker room. In the third quarter, Cates rushed a Nader pass, and State's Pete Johnson made a diving interception at Penn State's 24-yard line. Chuck Burkhart tried to pass to big tight end Ted Kwolek, but couldn't find him open, so he looked for the secondary receiver, fullback Tom Cherry, who was running down the sideline. Burkhart tossed an accurate pass which Cherry caught in stride. He outmaneuvered a defender along the sideline and dashed to the end zone to give the visitors a 14-6 lead. Penn State never trailed in the game, but secured the victory in the fourth quarter. Denny Onkotz returned another Andrushinen punt 23 yards to the Bruins' 49-yard line. Slick tailback Charlie Pittman, who wound up as the game's leading rusher, sliced through the line, spun loose from 2 Bruins, kept his balance, and raced to the end zone for the final touchdown as Penn State left the Coliseum with a 21-6 victory over UCLA. Ridge Riley concluded his football letter report with this paragraph. Looking more like a business executive with his briefcase and fedora, Coach Prothro set out for the center of the field at the final gun to meet Coach Paterno, who arrived there in a far less dignified manner, on the shoulders of his happy players.